Hi, I'm Julie, and this is episode 3 of Ugly Pennies. And today I'm going to touch on everything encompassing delusions from just the way that our brains habitually think, and also, spanning as far as hallucinations and psychosis. And also some resources for help and like some coping strategies you can use. Um, God, I really hate coping strategies sometimes. Like when I'm really lost and I'm trying to think of, like, how do I pull myself out? How do I pull myself out? And then I start, in my head naming off the coping strategies to think, and then I'm like, no! and it just fights back. But anyway, so that's why I wanted to talk on that some. And if you're feeling like you're in crisis or suicidal, that'll be the first things I list below, and links and phone numbers you can call or text or visit the websites and get some help. Um, so as far as delusions go, I'll be talking a lot from my own personal experience instead of naming off like reading a lot of articles this time. And so, oh, God. Okay, so delusional thinking. I feel like a lot of it's created to where it's almost grafted into a part of my personality. And I've been trying a long time to break away from that, which, in some areas I've succeeded, and in some, like, I'm still not that great. And so a lot of it is beating myself up. Um, I really like to do that to myself for whatever reason. And so my delusions typically aim towards me. And I kind of feel sorry for other people that have to deal with me in those states, because I will, lash out. I will, fight back. I don't want to, hear it. I don't want to accept it. I don't want to cope. Sometimes in those moments, I'm like, I don't know, I just get lost there. And sometimes it's, like I talk with my therapist a lot about things like this, and where can I break, you know, where do you draw the line to where it's, a good thing to be upset about or not? And so I kind of have a hard time with that. Because really, I just want to do the right thing. I just really want to do what's in my best interest, and also the people close around me. And it's so hard bringing other people into it, especially when you're trying to, and you also have trust issues, and you're also trying to deal with that. Like, do I really trust this person? I'll even do that with my own husband, even though I know deep down I do trust him. And he tries to help keep me sort of level headed and conscious of this, which I'm really glad about. So, because I don't know. It's hard to come by to trust someone enough to actually listen to them and give a damn what they're saying to me, or think it's true. So, like, for example, I'll beat myself up and I'll be like, "You suck at everything you do. You can't. You suck at." I'm an electrician, by the way, for as my job, and I like to branch off into like working on guitars, guitar amps, and my husband plays in quite a few bands, so I like to sort of mess around with his guitars, and then I'll beat myself up like, this sounds like shit. This sounds horrible. Like, and I'll just make up all this stuff, all these reasons, because my brain likes for me to be miserable. Like, I've just kind of developed that over time. I don't know exactly why. I don't know exactly what caused it, but that's just kind of how I am. That's just, but not always. I'm a lot happier when I'm not like that. But sometimes I get lost there and I'm stuck. And my husband's pretty good about pulling me out of it. Like when I start being like, I suck at everything and suck at this, all that stuff I try to do, pointless. And then he'll bring up like his guitars that I've put new pickups in, that I've put new potentiometers in, that I use to, for example, in his Gibson Explorer, I put 1 meg potentiometers, well, just one meg potentiometer in it. And that was to balance out like the dark sound of the pickups that were in the guitar originally, which they were great pickups. I didn't want to change them out. I just wanted to brighten them up a bit. So I used a higher resistance potentiometer and it helped brighten up the sound. And then so he'll tell me that and he'll be like everyone that listens to it loves that guitar and is amazed by how good it sounds. He's like, and I love it that you put the potentiometer in it. It sounds great. It's wonderful. And then he was telling me about his Gibson SG that I also put new pickups in. It's funny. He originally bought those pickups for me because I wanted to put those pickups in one of my guitars. And then I was testing some of his guitars out, and I noticed that I'm like, this guitar could really use some, spicing up. It's old and the pickups look like crap. so I put them in his guitar instead. And and he played it out not too long ago, and he was talking about how one of his bandmates like was looking at his guitar when he's playing. He's like, that sounds amazing. And he's like, yeah, thanks, my wife put new pickups in them. So I'm like, okay, you're right, I don't suck at everything. So I accepted it then. So when I can, and I get sometimes it's hard to find someone you trust. It's hard to find someone that you're going to care what they say or believe them, especially when you're like that. And that's a really hard thing to come over. But, if you're suffering with that, I just want to ask you or, challenge you to challenge those thoughts and come back at it and be like, but haven't you done this? But didn't you do that? And then, sometimes our brains like to fight back, be like, it doesn't matter. And, so, and because that's kind of what it does back. And I try really hard to side with the more positive side, that's talking to me during that time. But it's not always easy to do. It's, I don't know, just a delusional thing. Or when like I was in the throes of addiction and I'm like, this is just as good as it's going to get. This is, and you're supposed to die like this. You don't amount to nothing. You're just a worthless junkie. You're just a worthless alcoholic. Who gives a crap what you say? You're nobody. And that was, I don't even know. It's so hard to get past that and pull out of that. And I really wish that there was like quick fixes or things like that. But the main thing that works for me is challenging them and fighting back within myself. And sometimes that's not there. And that's when I know I'm in trouble. And that's when I know I probably need to go inpatient or, talk to somebody, talk to a professional about it that can kind of help guide me in the right direction. And I do good with like metaphors, so like, or analogies. So I just think of my mental well-being as like which has the potential to do this, like I've always got this little like creature, like I don't know, little gremlin that just only wants to hurt me. And so I have to use everything else, my coping strategies, my medication, my therapy sessions, my routines, like, like eating right and exercising, stretching, meditating, all of that. I have to do all of that. And that just kind of keeps it at bay. Like, don't bother me. Don't you do it. So that's kind of how I like to imagine it. Like I have to tend to it, um, care about it, just so it'll shut the hell up and leave me alone. And that's how I think about it. I mean, some days are better than others. Sometimes weeks, I'll be stuck in that. Sometimes months, it seems. Um, so, and I really hate when I go into like just full blown psychosis. And I'm not sleeping, I'm not eating, I'm not shitting, I'm not. There's a lot of stuff that I don't have. And, um, and so me and my husband made a list of my personal early warning signs, to be able for him to see them so he can kind of check in with me and, talk to me about it. Um, but like I said, like it's hard to distinguish sometimes because you're like, what's me? What's the illness? What's me? What's that little gremlin that I haven't been tending to properly? Or sometimes it just gets a mind of its own and you feel like you're doing everything right, but there's always some missing pieces to the puzzle. And the puzzle changes. You'll have to take something out, replace it with something else. And it's just an ongoing, forever thing with me. Um, and then I wanted to talk about also like some hallucinations. It's been a while since I've hallucinated, but I mean, the voices are common, um, and it's, you know, I mean, a lot of times even the general population, will hear like random, like hello or, kids laughing and there's actually nothing there. So it's not super uncommon for audible hallucinations. But mine tend to be very negative or grandiose, depending on how I'm feeling that day. And I try to not get too carried away with either. But it's kind of hard when you're trying to differentiate, what's me and what's that. And then, as far as visual hallucinations, it's been a long time since I've had anything like that. But like I've had them to where a common thing I would have would be the big black dog. And I've been seeing that since childhood. And I just didn't want to tell anybody about it because it just seemed weird, or I would just say it was a dream because that made more sense. But, in those moments, like, I knew I was awake. Like, and even when I was like 22, I remember going out on a smoke break from work and just, out there smoking. And then suddenly the big black dog is there again. And he commonly have his paw on my chest and growling in my face, and I'm just frozen in fear. And that recurs. It tends to be onset by like lack of sleep, by bad diet, by stress. That that seems to make me much more likely to have that. And also when I'm not taking antipsychotics, that kind of help regulate that end of it. And but then I'd have like neutral weird ones. Like one time I suddenly was in an elevator like with really bright lights, and I remember there was a guy standing in front of me that had on a black t-shirt. In the back of his shirt was written in a different language. I don't know what it was, but I was trying very hard to decipher it. And then I come to, and I'm in a group therapy session, and I'm like, what in the hell? What's that? And I didn't tell anybody about it because that's really disturbing. I mean, I was even disturbed, so I didn't tell any doctor about it until like a little over a month ago. And I had that 9 years ago. And then another one that I had that was neutral was I was standing on, like, crouching on top of a barn with a hole in the roof. And I looked down and there's all these bright red roosters. And I'm like, just thinking, like, wow, that's a really bright red. That's a lot of roosters. And then I come to and I'm like, oh my God. So things like that, I don't know, it's hard to make sense of it. What do I even have to, talk about roosters and a shirt written in a different language? I don't know. It's not really of any relevance or importance really to me that I know of. Um, but I did want to talk about some warning signs, to be able to help out your friend or family member that you might be able to recognize this with. So I'm going to be reading this. This is from NAMI.org. It is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And this is about psychosis and warning signs. And so I'm going to start down here. Um, so right here on symptoms, I'm going to start. So early warning signs before psychosis. Early psychosis, or FEP, rarely comes suddenly. Usually, a person has gradual, nonspecific changes in thoughts and perceptions but doesn't understand what's going on. Early warning signs can be difficult to distinguish from typical teen or young adult behavior. While such signs should not be cause for alarm, they may indicate the need to get an assessment from a doctor. Encouraging people to seek help for early psychosis is important. Families are often the first to see early signs of psychosis and the first to address the issue of seeking treatment. However, a person's willingness to accept help is often complicated by delusions, fears, stigma, and feeling unsettled. In this case, families can find the situation extremely difficult, but there are engagement strategies to help encourage a person to seek help. It's important to get help quickly since early treatment provides the best hope of recovery by slowing, stopping, and possibly reversing the effects of psychosis. Early warning signs include the following: a worrisome drop in grades or job performance, trouble thinking clearly or concentrating, suspiciousness or uneasiness with others, a decline in self-care or personal hygiene, spending a lot of more time alone than usual, strong inappropriate emotions, or having no feelings at all. And then also signs of early or first episode psychosis. Determining exactly when the first episode of psychosis begins can be hard, but these signs and symptoms strongly indicate an episode of psychosis. Hearing, seeing, tasting, or believing things that others don't. Persistent, unusual thoughts or beliefs that can't be set aside regardless of what others believe. Strong and inappropriate emotions or no emotions at all. Withdrawing from family or friends. A sudden decline in self-care. Trouble thinking clearly or concentrating. Such warning signs often point to a person's deteriorating health, and a physical and neurological evaluation can help find the problem. A mental health professional performing a psychological evaluation can determine if a mental health condition is involved and discuss next steps. If the psychosis is a symptom of a mental health condition, early action helps to keep lives on track. Oh, so I'm going to stop there for a moment. There are many causes that it could be, such as genetics, trauma, substance use, physical illness or injury, and mental health conditions. And there are quite a few treatments, and the most successful showing is coordinated specialty care, where there's a team of health professionals and specialists who work with a person to create a personal treatment plan based on life goals when involving family members as much as possible. And sometimes this is not easy to do, especially here in the U.S. where mental health is bottom tier, and I had to struggle with this recently, and I just could not get the team together that said that they would be there for me. So I had to go back to cerebral. So I couldn't. I wanted in-person treatment. I wanted that whole package, but I couldn't. I couldn't get it. And they kept telling me they were, understaffed and things like that. And that's always a problem. I mean, but also I had to witness how I was treated and how they couldn't even do anything to give me the medications that I needed. And I just, that was unacceptable to me. So I had to find a different way to deal with it. But I did. It's manageable. It was just, God, I don't even, what do I even say? Okay, so I'm going to move on to coping mechanisms. And this is an article from Psychology Today. And it's called Schizophrenia, Coping with Delusions and Hallucinations. But really, this could work with anyone, not just, if you have schizophrenia. But the coping mechanisms can be used by anyone. So here's one. Um, if you're assailed by voices, try out some or all of the following. Keep a diary of the voices to help identify and avoid the situations in which they arise. Identify a trusted person with whom to discuss the voices. Focus your attention on a distractive activity such as reading, singing, listening to music, gardening, or exercises. Talk back to the voices. Challenge them and insist that they go away. Manage your levels of stress and anxiety. Ensure that you are getting enough sleep. Avoid alcohol and recreational drugs. Take your medication as prescribed. If necessary, ask for a review of your medication. And there's also advice for your caretakers here, down towards the bottom. So if you have someone, to talk with, there's also some help, for them and some guidance for them as well. And again, I will post all those links below. And just to be able to help anyone out that can use some of these coping strategies. And also, just touch on some more coping strategies is to avoid absolutisms. So absolutisms are like never, always, things like that. So like, I never do anything right. I always mess it up. Most of the time, absolutisms are not true. So trying to take a step back and evaluate everything going on around you is sometimes kind of tricky, especially when you're in those delicate states of mind where you're pretty much stuck. You're just stuck on that. And so I just wanted to talk a little bit about that and how it's affected me. I could drone on and on about it, but I just kind of wanted to package it up here as nicely as I could and list as many resources that I could, and try to, if anyone else needs help managing these, just letting you know what I do, and I actively struggle with them too, and I'm not cured. It's not cured. It's not like curable, but it is manageable. And I just wanted to share some of the ways that I'm able to live my life and actually, be fulfilled in a way, to just be able to live my life the way that I want to. So, nice. Sorry, I didn't mean to burp, but it happened, and we're all going to have to deal with it now. Okay, so that'll be it for tonight. Again, thank you all so much for watching. And I really do appreciate the time that you put here to listen, to go on and on, for me to drone on and on. I know. But so I just want to tell you thank you very much. And I really do appreciate your time here. Thank you. Right. Good night.